Tim,
Mm-hmm.
I know you've kind of been hit or miss a little bit recently on the homies and some of the other podcasts that I've been on. Um, you should watch tomorrow.
Yeah, why? What's going to happen tomorrow?
We got a lot of receipts. We got a lot of receipts.
It don't matter. G's not going to. It don't matter though. You can have those receipts, and G's be
How
like,
did you know
"Oh,
who we were talking about? How
put
would
them
you
in the
guess who we were talking
matrix.
about?
Put them in the
How are
matrix."
you guessing
Wait,
who we were talking
Brandon,
about?
put you in the matrix. You're going in the matrix.
Uh, man, G Stradamus is
He's like
defunct.
Walmart version.
It's defunct. Yeah, yeah. It's it's Timu G Stradamus, and guess what? The tariff just hit, so he gonna
So,
have to start paying up.
you know what? You know what? You know what? You guys should change his name from Big G to Big Lots, because that's about as what his takes are worth.
I I heard something on national media today. It was Nick Wright actually. Nick Wright said, "I wish I lived in your space where you have absolutely no remorse over any of your old takes. You just keep pushing and making more ridiculous takes." I'm telling you, you got to check out some of these receipts. They're going to be good.
I'll be there.
Enough of that BS. Let's get into the show. Start talking about some Bengals. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, we are running through the jungle. I'm your host, Brandon Herriott, here with your hosts, Justin Lacey and Tim Lyons. What's going on, fellas?
What it do? What it do?
Man, I can't lie, y'all. I'm trying to do the best I can to keep my emotions in check because I really want to crash out at this free agency period. But you know what? I'm gonna do the best I can to temper expectations for the time being. But they're not very well. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Can you read my my scroll on the bottom there? It says, "No news doesn't feel like good news."
Yeah, and mine says stop snoozing.
I'm tired of silence. I need some help out there. Austin's art. He knows what it is. Matrix time. We appreciate you as rocking with us as always. Mary Edwards. You're never late. You're always on time as long as you're here. Austin's art also, so he has a history of crappy takes. You should see some of his baseball takes. They're a hot mess. Listen, we all have bad takes. We all have bad takes. I just need some capitulation for some of the bad takes that some of my colleagues on other shows take. I get none. No capitulation.
Hold on. You got to share with us what capitulation means. Those big
remorse, admitting you were incorrect.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen very often. I will say this though, and I feel bad. I'm teasing Big G when he's not here to defend himself.
He doesn't. Hold on. Wait a minute. Stop.
But
time out.
No,
time
I
out.
don't care what he does. I'm talking about what I do. I feel bad. It has nothing to do with him. Now, listen, I will say this though. Michigan is about the only thing that he kind of finally admitted 2 years ago. He was like, the team's bad. The team was a bad man pajama, and he kind of let me have my flowers there. So I'll give him that one. But yes, you were going to say, Tim.
He has no problem beating people down in his chat, in the homies chat. He has no problem doing that at all. He cannot, if you call him out, he will still put your ass in the matrix because he knows he's wrong and he doesn't want to look wrong on his damn podcast. I don't care what you say. He does it to me all the time because I can state facts and I'm pretty good at my takes. Like, have I had some ridiculous takes like that? Not really, no.
No, you're pretty close to the vest. You're right.
Yeah,
You're
so
pretty accurate.
I always when I have my takes, it's either personal feelings that are, I'm hoping that comes true, or it's just facts. It's just the whole facts of the matter of it is.
I've had a couple bad ones, but not too many.
Yeah, but the thing is that's the difference between Running Through the Jungle podcast and the Homies podcast, which everybody in the chat, you need to go check them out on Friday nights. It's a great show. It's got B Dirt. It's got our boy Pay Saunders on there. And then it's got Tate and G on it. Steelers guys nobody cares about. But it's a good show.
Rambling.
Yeah, I'll shut up now.
Listen, there's a lot of, it's like a professional troll show is what it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
We troll each other.
Yeah, it's a bunch of guys talking crap and browbeating people. But Brandon actually, Brandon and Pay, I'm not, because I might be biased and I don't care because I've known Brandon. For some of you that have just joined our show, I've known Brandon for, my whole life, pretty much.
40 blah, blah, blah years.
40 some years. So, him and I, we browbeat each other, and you'll see it on the show. But his takes are pretty accurate. Pays are pretty accurate, besides when he gets biased when it comes to the Chicago Bears and his Cubs. But nobody cares about those two sorry teams. But it's a good show. Definitely go check them out.
Mary Edwards says Steelers, gross.
Yeah.
Concur. I live in Pittsburgh, by the way, if you don't know that when you're listening. So I am behind enemy lines. I will be listening to 93.7 The Fan local sports talk here on my way into work tomorrow, because Steelers having a meltdown about their free agency as well. Everybody got real hyped about DK Metcalf until they realized they didn't have anybody to throw him the ball. And then everything paused for a second. Now it's a little bit of a meltdown, so they've evidently extended an offer to Aaron Rodgers, and he said, I have to think about it, and he left and went to Malibu. And then they re-signed Mason Rudolph, who is most known for getting bashed over the head by Myles Garrett with a helmet. Then they have Skylar Thompson. So there are some issues in Steelerland as well. We all have issues. No one right now has had a perfect offseason, although I would make some good arguments for the Washington Commanders. I really like the Texans have done. The Vikings.
And the Broncos. I like the Denver Broncos.
Again, the Broncos, solid. I still think they need to hit a couple pieces in the draft to really get them over that next level. I think the Texans, and to me, the Texans and Commanders are where I think have had the best offseason. Now, it's early. There's still other things that are going to happen. Most of the top 20, 25 free agents, though, are off the board. So now you're looking at depth pieces, and can you maybe re-sign a couple of those other guys to extensions in our case, and things of that nature. So we thank you guys for rocking with us. If you got a second, hit that like, that subscribe, rate, review, share us, tell a friend about Running Through the Jungle. That said, what I wanted to do here, guys, I just want to go. There's a lot that's happened in free agency, re-signing, things of that nature, with the Bengals, and kind of maybe who the Bengals missed out on. Somebody that you thought signed a cheaper deal than you thought they would have, that might have played well in our space. There's some veterans that did some one-year contracts that I thought might have been good rental pieces for us in between draft picks and stuff like that. So I want to get some of your guys' kind of takes on what your thoughts are. So keep it short, like a 60-second answer or less. Some of these are probably going to be real short, but we'll go with that, and we'll keep it moving. And we'll go through the whole list here of what the Bengals have done. We'll start with in the offseason. Justin, I'm going to kick it over to you, because I know this position group that I'm going to start with, you've had some opinions about over the past year. What was your take on signing Oren Burks, linebacker, to 2-year, $5 million contract?
My immediate instinct is like, I don't really care. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be that way. I'm very underwhelmed with the Bengals free agency as a whole, but we'll get into that. Oren Burks, I think he's a solid player. He came in pinch hit duty for Nakobe Dean after he got injured in the Super Bowl. He also was balling out throughout their entire playoff run, but that can have been really representative of the entire Phillies defense. If you remember correctly, of when the Bengals had a good defense back in 2021 and in 2022, mainly 2021 when Al Golden was last year's linebackers coach, we saw guys like Clay Johnston and Joe Bocci come in when Logan Wilson was hurt and stuff, and they were still balling out. I think Oren Burks is similar and on part of that. I don't think that he's a starter right now, but I think he can be a real solid rotational guy that can probably develop if you bring him into camp and compete with other linebackers, or hey, maybe even be linebacker two or whatnot. It's a solid depth signing, but it's not something that moves the needle or ultimately makes that side of the ball better. You still don't know what you got in Jermaine, what you're going to get in Jermaine Pratt if he's still going to be on the team. I highly doubt that that's going to happen. I still don't know exactly what's going to happen overall at LB2. So my think is the Bengals are probably going to address that position in the draft.
Yeah, I think they have some ability there too. And maybe you bring over some of that moxie from the Eagles, because that Eagle defense definitely plays with some moxie, because you're going to lose a little bit of it with Mike Hilton, right? So that's another side point I got with him. All right, Tim, we'll go down to, and I don't think the ink has dried on this yet, but there's reports out there that we re-signed Joseph Asai, 1 year, $7 million. What's your take on that, Tim?
It was a good re-signing, but then again, I'm kind of like looking at some of these guys going, did it work out last year? But Asai was pretty much sharing time with Sam Hubbard and Murphy, and so I think this is his time to a real prove it deal. This 1 year contract is a prove it deal. Am I excited about it? It is what it is. But if he can step up in that hole and actually fill, do better than what Hubbard did in those last couple of years, we'll see if he proves it or not. So
I mean, projected out, the last half of the year he had 5 sacks, which would project him out to double-digit sacks if he would have played the whole season. I don't know. You're gonna have to have all hands on deck depending on what happens with Trey, right? So it can't help. It can't hurt having that depth piece there at least. Let's give you. I'm gonna run it back to you, Tim. I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna give you a couple here. This one might not really land for you, but we're gonna ask you. Tight end Cam Grandy. This is kind of the if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it.
I don't understand. There's some of these free agent picks or re-signings and signings that I don't understand. Grandy is one of them. I'm like, oh great. Then we got Hudson too. Okay, Mr. Fumble the ball in the within the 5-yard line. That's great. Let's re-sign him. Only one I was excited about was Gesicki. Sorry about that. But was Gesicki. But Grandy, whatever. Yeah. I practice squad material, I guess. That's all I can say.
I wasn't upset with Tanner Hudson re-signing, right? Let's just stay in the tight end room. I wasn't upset with Tanner Hudson re-signing. You got to have some depth, especially for this year. You got all out. Justin, what'd you think of the Tanner Hudson signing? You think that's a good backup piece for you, or would you have maybe addressed it in the draft? Because it looks like after they sign 4 tight ends, I don't know if they'll draft one or not.
I would rather them address it in the draft. And if they were to go for external free agents, not them. I just don't really think that they're productive ball players at this stage in their careers. I don't really know what to make of Cam Grandy other than he's just a body. That's it. As far as Tanner Hudson goes, he's not explosive. He was a fresh guy last year or during the 23 season.
Yeah.
Because we were tired of seeing Drew Sample in the starting lineup. And Drew Sample, all he's known for is a good blocker. Tanner Hudson, we was like, oh, he did a little bit in the preseason, but he's an older guy. He's been in the league for a while now at this point. And I'm just not really I just want more explosive at that position. And that just starts with Mike Gesicki to me. And then you add somebody else in the draft. That's personally why I would have liked to have seen them go for an external free agent. Tanner Hudson, Cam Grandy, they're just bodies on the depth chart. Nothing special about them, in my opinion.
I really think if All wasn't going to miss the entire season, you wouldn't have seen both of them resigned.
I agree.
I truly agree with that. So let's cap off this tight end room. Tim, one of your guys, Mike Gesicki, 3 years, $25.5 million, said he took what he referred to as the Joe Burrow tax to come back, but was willing to do so because of Joe Burrow. He mentioned Dan Pitcher and Coach Zach by name. So what was your thoughts on Mike Gesicki signing back for 3 years, 25.5?
I think it's great. It's great that we have him for 3 years. Like our problem at tight end has always been a revolving door besides Sample. Sample's always been here. He'll be here until the Bengals kick him out the damn door. But, Mike Gesicki, he's not only just a tight end, but he's also a slot wide receiver, slot receiver too. He's been put in that slot position. We see what he does when T's been out with his hamstring injuries or whatever. I think it's a great thing. Joe's got a solid tight end for the next 3 years. It's not this whole, are they going to play Eric All? Are they going to do this? Or are they going to do that? I think Gesicki sets that position in that slot position, a little bit more security.
Yep, I agree with you. Let's just get this out of the way. I'm going to lump these two together here as special teams re-signings. Ryan Rickow and Cal Adamitis both re-signed. Solidifies it. Justin, your take on it. You cool with this? You happy with it? Just get it out of the way.
Just get your punter and long slapper. There ain't nothing to be made about those guys. Those guys just needed to be signed because you needed a punter and you needed a long slapper.
Well, and I think that, listen, punting hurt us
for a few years. Ryan Rickow did solidify it.
Pretty good year last year, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah.
All right, so let's try to get rid of this. This is kind of the last of the skimming off the fat off the top of your chili, if you would here. I'm going to lump these two together. Interior offensive lineman Jackson Kirkland and offensive lineman Cody Ford. Tim, your thoughts on re-signing those two?
I think we knew the whole Cody Ford was going to come along, even though some of us probably didn't want it. Kirkland, Kirkland's 6'7", like 365. He's a big dude. He's a big dude. Unfortunately, we're short a guard right now. Our starting guard got cut and got sent to Las Vegas for a ridiculous amount of money.
I don't even say. I wouldn't even say unfortunately.
Yeah,
I'd say very fortunately.
Very fortunate because he was the Triple Crown loser last year when it came to the offensive lineman. But we needed to fill in somewhere.
Triple bunion. We can't call it crown. It's like a triple bunion award.
Yeah, if the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm gonna go into just a kind of my little wish list, just real quick. I think a Zeitler would have been great to bring in for 1 year, but he went to Tennessee instead.
I don't know if he came back.
But I know when he left the Bengals in the first place, it was kind of a salty leaving anyways. But if he would have came back for 1 year, those other two makings would have been fillers. But right now it's like, who's our starting guards? Cody Ford, Volson, Kirkland, and I can't remember the other guy's name. But anyways, it is what it is.
All right, so getting in, this not a sexy name by any means here, but someone who actually I think later in the year also proved to be a pretty good piece for us, and I wasn't upset with the re-signing for 1 year deal. What was your take, Justin, on Marco Wilson, cornerback?
You just need more bodies at the position at the end of the day. I mean, injuries really killed that position group. Guys like DJ Turner went out, Dax Hill went out. If you're still banking on those guys, I know people likes to mention in DJ Ivy, but that guy was a 7th round pick, and primarily he's going to be on special teams. Marco Wilson showed some flashes coming from New England. I think that it was a really good depth signing, but at the end of the day, it doesn't move the needle. You just hope that collectively as a group that they're just going to run it back as a unit to see if they can get more production out of those young guys. But Not too high on it. Definitely, I mean, not too low on it, but not too high. Definitely not too high at all. It's just great to just add more bodies back at the position.
Agreed. And I thought he was serviceable. Is he a splash? No. But I thought he was serviceable at some points during the year. I thought he played better than some of our starters. I'll let that one go. All right, Tim. Give you a defensive tackle. BJ Hill resigns 3 years, $33 million, and also had a very cool kind of interview with the fans on social media, which I kind of thought was pretty cool. What was your take on BJ Hill coming back three for 33?
I feel like we gave him a little bit too much. I'm glad to have him back. Sorry, BJ, if you happen to watch Runnin Thru Jungle. I'm not saying that you're not worth it, but I think we gave you a little bit too much. But I'm happy to have him back. It's BJ Hill. It's the defensive tackle position, and it's a position that we've been hurting on for many years. BJ Hill actually played fairly well last year.
Yeah.
So I give him his props, but I'm happy to see him. That he is back.
Defense looked a lot different when he was on the field. I will say that.
Yeah.
Or when he wasn't in that rotation.
Yeah.
Listen, I think 10, 12 million is kind of the going rate for a defensive tackle that's going to be a good starter for you. So it is what it is. Late one here, coming back off of injury. Cam Sample at times proved to be a good depth piece. I don't know, Justin, your take on Cam Sample?
As what you just said, depth piece. That's all he is at this point. He's not a guy that is an impact player. He hasn't been an impact player. He'll make a good play here and there, but at the end of the day, when we lost him, it should not have moved the needle of why your defense was as bad as it was, because he's a backup to one of the backups. So with that being said, it's good to again have him as depth, but nothing that moves the needle whatsoever.
I feel like for several years we just kept hearing about his upside and his, what kind of player he could be, and there was no development. Do you have any hope? Which I know will get Tim's attention there. Do you have any idea that some of the new coaches we bring in may be able to develop some of these guys that have been lacking development?
There's a possibility that they could with the new coaching, because you do need fresh voices. That's why Al Golden was hired. That's why Jerry Montgomery was hired. That's why you have Mike Hodges at linebacker coach. That's why he was hired. But at the end of the day, I'm of a person of results. Yeah, you can bring in all the fancy coaches all you want to, but you better deliver on the field, because everybody blamed Lou Anarumo and stuff, and rightfully so. The defense was atrocious, and so did Marion Hobby. He got a lot of brunt of the blame too. But just remember, for a few years ago, those same two coaches that have now been canned were responsible for some of those guys having their best years. And now we're seeing some of the worst seasons out of these people. So with that being said, there's hope, yes. But at the end of the day, what do we always like to say on this show?
Hope is not a strategy.
There it is. I don't even have to say no more.
All right. Tim Lyons, I'm gonna give you your guy here. Halfback Samaje Perine comes back to the Bengals. Is it a 2-year deal, I believe? I saw that right.
Yeah, I think it's a 2-year deal. Justin and I, we actually exchanged some words on Twitter about this pick, because I'm confused. I'm literally this is how you know what, I'm explaining it to you this way. Samaje Perine, when he was with the Cincinnati Bengals the first time, he came in, filled in for Joe Mixon, and he did really well. I'm not gonna lie. We all thought maybe he was going to re-sign with us, but then he went to Kansas City. Actually, was it Kansas City that he went to?
Denver first.
He went to Denver first.
All right, Denver, and then Kansas City, and then now he's back with us. I kind of understand it now, because I've seen that Herbert's gone, Captain America's gone, Trevion Williams is gone. So I kind of understand it, because we still have Moss, and we still have, of course, Chase Brown, our starting halfback.
Can't believe we still have Moss, but keep going.
Yeah, I can't believe that we still have Moss either. But the way that I feel, when I first heard about it, I felt like Steelers fans when they found out that Mason Rudolph was coming back to the Steelers. I kind of felt that same way. It was like, Samaje's coming back to the Bengals. Okay, He played 17 games last year. He had 90 yards and 1 touchdown. You play 17 games, and Isaiah Pacheco was hurt for most of the year for Kansas City. And you played 17 games, but you only rushed for 90 yards and had a tutty. That's it. But Samaje used to be a really good third down back, and I know I'm a little bit long-winded because everybody knows I love to run the damn football, so I'm talking a little bit more about this running back. You know, Samaje, he used to be a good third down back, either running the ball or even pass blocking. So maybe we get that old lightning back in his bottle, and he, you know, is that Cincinnati Bengal he was a couple years ago. I don't know.
He definitely understands pass blocking and protections and does a good job at that on third downs. The part that threw me off here, and Justin, feel free to chime in here if you agree or disagree with this, but the part that threw me off is you already re-signed Drew Sample, and that's really the only thing he's been good at, in my opinion, is kind of playing that third down H-back and protecting the quarterback. And now you brought in a guy who, for 2 years, that's also his strength. Do you see it the same way, Justin, or you think am I missing something?
I rather would have had Javonte Williams, who signed a 1-year deal with the Cowboys, over Samaje Perine. I'm just of the mind frame of I'm sick and tired of Bengals fans gassing up Samaje Perine like he was the second coming of Rudy Johnson when he's not. Samaje Perine was solid a few years ago, but he's not that anymore. He's a guy that is just a guy. The Bengals signed him, fine. I can live with that if you go after a real RB2 to really complement Chase Brown. We already know Chase Brown is RB1. You better get RB2 in the draft then, because there ain't no RB2s left in free agency. You do have a chance of probably bringing in Nick Chubb, but I don't know. He might go back to Cleveland. Hell, he might even go to Pittsburgh for all we know. But at the end of the day, Samaje Perine, if he's your number 2 running back going into training camp, after all of this has been out, after all the dust settles, yeah, I'm not going to be enthused about that whatsoever.
Yeah, I think Tate has the nail on the head here. Solid number 3. I'm good with that.
He's number 3.
Yeah,
rotating in on passing third down, like third and longs, 3rd and 8 or 12 or something like that. I think that's where he's at in our rotation, which has been the only thing I don't understand. That has been the Drew Sample.
I'm just not, like I said, I'm just not enthused with it. And like I said, my preference would have been a guy like a Javonte Williams. I know Tate is in the comments saying that he was going to start in Dallas. Sure, because Dallas ain't got no running backs. They might get Ashton Genty in the draft. So there goes his starting job. But again, Javonte Williams, he would be coming in as a complement to Chase Brown, because Chase Brown, while we like that he showed the ability to be the ball carrier, he's not built that way.
Want him to have be a bell cow at that.
And the Bengals are a passing team. The Bengals are a passing team anyway. So with that being said, you got to bring in a guy that truly understands. Look, they got a guy that understands the system in Samaje, but at the end of the day, I need the Bengals to evolve past that.
I don't even see Samaje as a short yardage now. I don't know. I just see him as a third down blocker catching the ball out of the backfield. Listen, just now I'm saving. I saved one for you because I felt the negativity. I thought maybe there's one positive one in this list for you. What's your take on defensive tackle TJ Slayton Jr.?
I don't know who he is. I really don't. And quite frankly, I heard him in a press conference, and sure, I'm hearing that, oh man, he's a big body that can plug up the middle and stop the run. He has no pass rushing upside. He was drafted 53 picks or 56 picks after we had drafted Tyler Shelvin, who was ultimately a bust that's not even in the league anymore. Look, that's cool. It's good you got a body in the middle there. That's great. But I'm sorry, but if Kenneth Grant is staring at me in the face and all my other top guys are off the board and he's there at 17, I'm drafting him. I'm just them. Like, no offense, but he can get hurt week 1 and we're back to the same position that we just started. And we thought we've gotten better. Ultimately, I hate that some of these guys are catching strays coming from me, but it's well deserved because the Bengals made this like this. They've done a bad job of really supplementing what they could have done. And a guy like TJ Slayton could have been like a compliment to somebody like a Levi Onwuzurike if the Bengals would have flown in and took a chance on him, and then maybe bring in TJ Slayton to complement that. And then you have your depth guys in 3 and 4 within Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson, but the Bengals didn't operate that way. But overall, I'm sure Slayton will be fine as a run stuffer, but he ain't going to be no
No.
DJ Reader.
No, he's a first and second down rotational piece, which I think, hear me out on this, I think Chris Jenkins has the ability to get upfield a little bit more. I think spelling him on first and second down a little bit. We were thin last year at that position. I like this as a depth piece. I like what it brings. I think rotating McKinley Jackson and Chris Jenkins out a little bit more, having them a little more fresh on third down, second and third down, I think it actually helps in our favor. Now, if you rewind the tape from the past couple of years, this is also, I think, part of the reason why, the Bengals defense, when sped up, when people went no huddle against us, I didn't always like that look. You know what I mean? I saw a few teams do that to us, and we weren't able to rotate people in the way we wanted to, and they took advantage of it. Really did. Listen, Austin's art here. He wants Walter Nolan at 17. Not mad about that. But Austin, you definitely want to check us out next week. Next week, we are going to do some draft predictions, some draft analysis, and kind of what our wish list would be versus what we expect our front office to do. Because if you've paid attention to our team for very long, you know that those two things normally don't line up. But listen, that's a good place to stop for a moment. We'll go to a quick break. While we're on this said break, if you have not yet, please hit that thumbs up. Please hit that like, subscribe, rate, and review if you're listening to us wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, so on and so forth. 5 stars help us out a ton. We appreciate you for listening, and we'll be right back after these messages. And once again, we are back with Running Through the Jungle. Your host, Brandon Herriott, with your hosts, Tim Lyons and Justin Lacey. We went through the Bengals signings as of so far in this offseason and free agency. But there are a few notable unsigned extensions. Let me see. Can you think of any off the top of your head?
No, can't think of any.
No. Let's go. Here's what I want to know. I want to know what your guys' take are on this. What you think our big 3 free agents are going to get as far as contracts. And I'm curious if you think we're going to be able to re-sign them or if you think they're going to go somewhere else. Let's start with Trey Hendrickson. We'll go oldest. Show some elderly respect here. Trey Hendrickson, once an extension has been granted the ability to look for a trade, rumor mill out there is that 2 teams have met Trey's monetary contract desires, but not the Bengals' trade desires. So, listen, I'll flip it over to you, Tim. What do you think Hendrickson's going to get, and do you think it'll be with the Bengals?
At this point in time, Henderson's not getting traded. He ain't going nowhere. There's no way. From everything that I'm seeing, the Bengals want too much. But Trey Hendrickson and his camp did tell the Bengals that he was worth a first round draft pick. So but also when you have 17.5 sacks and a possible defensive player of the year nomination, what do you expect that team's going to ask for? They're not going to ask you, well, you know what? It's like trading, Myles Garrett for a 5th rounder. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Trey Hendrickson is Myles Garrett in his prime. I'm not saying that. But Trey Hendrickson is a huge piece. 17.5 sacks. His contract's going to be, between 30 to 35 a year. And from my understanding, the Bengals offered him 30 to 33 or 32, whatever it was a year. And I think Brandon said it himself that they only offered him 2 years, but he wanted 3 or whatever. So of course the price is going to be high. the Bengals are not going to just let people just fleece them. We're not the Chicago Bears and just going to let somebody fleece us and give us, a 5th rounder for somebody that is our number one, our number one defensive end, our guy that had more sacks than anybody on the team, who had more sacks than anybody in the NFL. So we're not going to just let him go for a 5th rounder.
The Bears have a nice little offseason going. Go ahead.
The Bears are having, don't get me wrong, the Bears are having a good offseason. I'm just talking about years past. But I think what is going to happen is Trey's going to finish out his year here, and then we're going to let him go. We're going to let him walk.
So nothing for the asset. So what do you think his next contract will be, and who do you think it'll be with?
It could be with any of these teams, the Commanders, the Falcons, could be with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They like to sign old guys. So, it could be with anybody. And I think, I think that he gets probably, that 30, 35 a year mark, for whatever team he goes to. I can't predict what team he goes to, but yeah.
Tate says Trey gets 2 for 66. I had him at 2 for 64. The numbers we're hearing that he wants that 3rd year. I know that they're monetarily are hitting it. I have not heard anybody hit that 3rd year yet. Justin, what's your take on it? Do you think we have a chance to re-sign him? Where do you think he goes, and what do you think that contract looks like?
For starters, man, it's just way too much unnecessary noise about this. It really is. Everybody's trying to pretend like that they're the insider, that they got the inside scoop about the Trey Henderson contract on Twitter, and this is really kind of annoying. Like, nobody really knows exactly what is being offered from the Bengals side of things. People think that they know, but they really ain't got a clue. And honestly,
really quiet too.
And he is. Very. And yet, but like people feel like that they have like this fly on the wall type of secret that nobody else has. And really, Trey ain't talking to nobody. But here's the thing. The Bengals do have the opportunity to sign him to his deal. I do ultimately think it can get done. But this should not have been a hard deal and a hard decision to even make. I understand why the Bengals probably have valued him maybe like at 26. Maybe they probably valued him at 27, 28. But then other contracts happen with other defensive players, and then that bumped that market up a little bit higher. And you know what? Guess what? Now the Bengals got to shell out a little bit of that bag. So now that deal has to start with a 3 at the beginning of it. That number has to start with a 3. It might be 30, might be 31, it might be 32. I think that along with the lines of what your boy Tate said in the comments, 2 years, 66 is a really good number, but that's added on top of the current deal that he already has. What I would do is I would front load the first year so that way he's getting a pay raise, and then let that relax on the back end on that 3rd and final year. And that way, if they want to give him a grace extension and that way he can retire a Bengal or something like that, then that's cool. But at the end of the day, I think a 3-year deal overall means so much more regardless. And then the option to restructure in case they do fear like the 30-plus-year-old thing bites them in the butt at some point, they'll be able to have an out. There's ways to structure around that. But the Bengals, I do feel like they're going to get it done. I think is that they have no leverage now to get a first-round pick out of somebody at this point. Because if that's the reports that's what people saying that the Bengals want, they almost have no chance at getting anybody's first-round pick. Yes, I know that there's conversations regarding the Philadelphia Eagles, but the Philadelphia Eagles can go out there and sign a Zizo Jalari, who I would have liked to have opposite Trey Henderson, and then they won't even need him, knowing that they already got a guy like Nolan Smith and they still got the draft. So with that being said, that's too rich for people's blood, and now the people are calling the Bengals bluff, understanding that chances are you're not going to get what you want out of this, so you're going to be stuck having to make a decision. You either pay him or he sits out. And if he sits out, there ain't no way in hell he's coming back to the old team again.
Yeah, the contract stuff, the way to do that extension, right, is when you say front load, it's a signing bonus that gets paid out this year that doesn't count against the cap at all anywhere, right?
Yep.
So he's getting like 18, 19 this year. We got 25 left on the cap. So it doesn't matter. It won't affect the cap space if you front load that bonus, and then you can take those 2 years. So if you're going to do 2 years, 65, if you're going to pay 25 up front as the bonus, you're going to end up hitting a $20 million cap hit in those following 2 years. That's nothing. Now, will they go 25 on the bonus? Probably not. They'll probably go 10 or 15 to bring up his number across the board to the same, where he's getting 28 million every year, 27, whatever that averages out with the 18, 19 he's getting this year. It makes it a lot easier with all this extension stuff and loosening up things. If the T. Higgins deal gets done, because if the T. Higgins deal gets done, he's not going to be on the books this year at 26 million. He's going to get obviously bonus money up, and that's going to go down. So that would be a big. It'd be easier to do both of them than just Trey because of that tag already. So let's just go right into T. Higgins. T. Higgins. Ooh. And we talked about this, before last season. It was probably 24 to 26 million that re-signs him, and now it's not going to be that. It's not going to be that. That number is going to be 28 to 32 in my estimation. Tim, T. Higgins, do you think we get his deal done, or do you think he ends up playing his next contract somewhere else?
All I'm going to say is when we're talking about all three of these guys, I'm just going to lay a single statement down as this is. We're a year late. We're a year late for Higgins. We're a year late for Trey. We're a year late for Chase. That's all I'm going to say about that's a statement that I'm going to say for all of them. But when it comes to T. Higgins right now, unfortunately, the way it's looking, the Cincinnati Bengals are fumbling the ball. They're fumbling it. They're just fumbling it. We don't know what's going on. I know Justin's going to say, the same thing he just said about Trey and, everybody getting riled up about all this stuff. But I believe that the Cincinnati Bengals front office is just fumbling all of this. We're a year late for all three of them. Now we're trying to play catch up. And it's not a cap space issue. It's a cash issue. Unfortunately, even though I like T. Higgins, I would like to see him as a Cincinnati Bengal for, through 2029 with Joe Burrow and his contract. Would love to see it. But unfortunately, the way that it's going, I see him finishing out his tag, and then he's gone. He's just gone.
Yeah, I tell you, you just can't let both of these. So in your scenario, you let both of these assets walk without getting something, which is the way the Bengals have done business in the past. Yeah. And if they do that, you're going to hear me burn the whole thing to the ground.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we've been Cincinnati Bengals fans for a long time, and they've shit the bed for all these years. And I'm not saying, and I was so hopeful that bringing the Blackburns in and Tobin and it was going to change the way that people see the Cincinnati Bengals. But as of right now, we're on the same boat, the same ship. They got they're driving this boat down the river. It's got one rudder on the left side, and this thing's just doing turns. It ain't going nowhere.
It's a NASCAR boat. Got it.
Yeah. So until the Cincinnati, like I said at the very beginning of all this stuff a couple of weeks ago, until I see ink on paper and proof.
So what do you think his next deal looks like? Whether it's here or not.
Well, okay, let's put it this way. If he comes out here next year, for the 2025 season, he comes out here, he plays ball, either he has 900 yards and 10 touchdowns, or he has over 1,000 yards and 10 plus touchdowns. That contract can move from 28 to, I'll even say it, almost 39, maybe 39, a year. It depends on how he plays in 2025. But if the Cincinnati Bengals are smart and we want those two guys to be playing with Joe Burrow when Joe Burrow wants them to play with them, we got to get this done. We can't be twiddling our thumbs anymore and hoping things just work out, because like Justin said earlier and like you said earlier, hope is not a strategy. This strategy is not working.
All right. Justin, I'll give you numbers going into yours because I think T gets 3 years, 88 million, about 55 million of it guaranteed.
I hope you're right.
And I actually think that the Bengals get this deal done with T. Higgins. I know he was in Cincinnati this past weekend. I know that talks have been Ian Rappaport, so that's a pretty good place to get some numbers. He thinks that they're going to get both him and Jamar Chase done. It just is going to take a minute. It has to get done sooner than later. I'd like to get it done before the draft because there are some people that I think could replace T if we were to get an extra draft pick for this season, so on and so forth. Justin, what do you think? Do we have a chance to re-sign T, and what do you think his next deal looks like?
I'll say the same thing as far as like what I said about Trey regarding T. Yes, they have a chance to re-sign T. Do I know if they're going to re-sign him at this point in the juncture? I truly do not know anymore. I just do not know. But yes, they obviously have a chance to re-sign T. I'm not even going to get into particulars what the number looks like, but I just think that the Bengals need to stop letting the market figure it out them, and they need to be able to get out in front of it. They should have been able to get out in front of it. And I'll even one up you. They should have done T. Higgins 2 years ago. They're 2 years too late. Everybody else collectively was a year, but T. Higgins easily could have been extended 2 years ago. But yet, this is what they did. They let it sit too long, and they waited. And this is they're paying their own price for this, and the price gets more and more expensive. But here's what I will say: like if he does leave in free agency after this season, and they don't get a deal done, he's going to sign a 4-year extension, probably like maybe north of 113, 112 million around give and take of that market. Similar to what you saw DK Metcalf pay, not maybe the 5-year 150 like he did, but skew that number a little bit down, a little bit south. I can clearly see T. Higgins signing a deal just like that, going somewhere else next year if they don't get a deal done. But to answer your question, yes, they obviously have a chance to get this done. There was never an issue regarding cap space or whatever. And I don't even think they even like to sell you this notion that it's cash. They got the cash too. Like if they didn't have the cash, then why did you expect T. Higgins why'd you tag him? Because at that point, you don't get a deal done. Guess what? You got to give them that money all up front. I mean, maybe not all up front, but you got to give them that money. And that's a big cap hit. So do yourself a due diligence and man, just get it done. So, I mean, I'll just leave it at there for now. But yeah, they obviously got a chance.
So you didn't want to put a number on it. I think it's going to be close to 30 a year. I think if he resigns with the Bengals, he gets 3. I probably get 4 years with a new team. Chase, and this is one of the things I think Duke Tobin stepped in it. I appreciated the machismo here, but when he said that we're going to make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, did he not realize that Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, all these other guys have been talking to their teams about the same thing? I mean, that's Micah Parsons has been talking about it on podcasts anybody will listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens? Myles Garrett gets $40 million a year. So we all thought the number was 38 to 40 million a year for Jamar Chase. Well, guess what? Yesterday's price isn't today's price.
Yep.
So, Justin, I'll throw it back to you. We get a Justin, or do we get a Justin? Justin, do we get a Jamar Chase deal done for the Bengals? And if so, what do you think that looks like?
Bengals, I got no choice but to give them at least 40 mil. They have no choice now. Again, it's one of those situations where you waited too long. The market ended up adjusting for you. And now this is the new asking price, what Jamar could be looking for. But here's what I will say now. And it's going to sound like I'm defending the Bengals a little bit when reality is I'm not. I think that we need to stop looking at it of a lens through being the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. I love Jamar. I understand that, but everybody else has been saying it before Duke Tobin said it. And I get that. I love Jamar. But when I think of the best player that's a non-quarterback in the entire NFL, Jamar is maybe probably top 5 in that space, but he's not number 1 yet. Okay. That's talking about all positions combined. And right now, we're in a space where we're including defensive edge rushers and wide receivers in this category. When realistically, I think we need to start looking at it. I would hope that we can start paraphrasing and looking into as like the highest paid wide receiver, which I obviously know that that's not going to be the case. But I just hope that Jamar can really truly understand. It's like, look, man, just because the market reset itself at this and I want to top this, understand this though. Myles Garrett has been in the league a few years longer and had productive seasons before Jamar even got here, and he's still killing it. So that's one thing. Same thing I will even say to Micah Parsons. Like Micah Parsons and Jamar came in the same years together. They both had productive young careers so far, but at the end of the day, they're not Myles Garrett level productive yet. They're going to get there, but not there yet. What I would simply say is look at Justin Jefferson's number at 35.5 million and add a few more years. Add a few more $1 million set to make it back into the 38, 39 range. And I'm cool with that because that will then make him comfortably the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Because guess what? That's what he is. He's paid as the best receiver in the NFL, which he is. Some people may feel differently and believe him that he's the overall player. I think that he's top 5 in that space, but I don't think he's number 1. I never really had a chance to even think about that yet. But at the end of the day, I just feel like that is going to get out of control because if Micah Parsons signs 41, then all of a sudden now you got to sign Jamar to 42. And then guess what? What if TJ Watt comes up and wants to sign for 43 and Jamar still hasn't signed his deal? It's all a numbers game. And we're just playing this game of superseding each other to the point where a wide receiver is literally making QB1 money. And that's something that we shouldn't really have to deal with anymore right now. I mean, I like Jamar. I love Jamar. I was Team Chase over Team Sewell when we drafted him. But I just think that we got to start recalibrating our thinking as far as like making him the highest paid non-quarterback to just what is the highest paid receiver currently? And let's supersede just that because that's what he is, the best receiver in the NFL.
I agree with you. And I think if they would have just tried to get the deal done, that's the number they would be at. I think 38 was the number. And now, since Duke Tobin stepped in it, I totally think Jamar Chase is going to draw the line in the sand and say, you said it from your lips to God's ears. You said it. Pay me my money. I really think he's going to do that. I
just real quick.
I didn't. This is a little bit weird. Tate Boy said it was 40. Now it's going to be 41.5. I think it's going to be a 4-year contract for 166, which is 41.5. And I think he's going to get 120 to 125 of it guaranteed.
Look, I would be here for that because I'm just be happy that the deal is done. But I will just put it in this context. If I'm going to side, I'm not siding, but if I were at Duke Tobin in this sense, because yes, he should not have said that on the podium in the comment. But at the end of the day, it was a constant question. He was asked, and they know that this is what you're going to have to do. So he got out in front of it and said it. I don't blame him or fault him for saying that. What if Jamar Chase would have signed his contract last year if they would have given him the guarantees over the initial last year's offseason? He would have signed that deal. And then now this happens with Myles Garrett. Will Jamar Chase be coming back to the negotiation table? Okay, now I want 40 million. No, dude, you already signed your deal. So with that being said, you can't always look this whole with that perspective, yesterday's price isn't today's price. I can't live and die by that sword. I do agree with it in total theory overall for all 3 players that, hey, if you try to offer Jamar last year 32, 33, or 34 per 40 season, but now it's ballooned to this, the 38, 39, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. But just because you saw him get signed 40 million a year, that shouldn't. And again, this is kind of in my mind here. I know that's not how the market works. That shouldn't always mean you gotta supersede him just because
it doesn't mean that unless you say it in public space to a microphone. Then it means it. You meant it when you said it. Now, well, prove it. That's if I'm Jamar Chase, I say prove it.
And that's
you're going to make me the highest paid one. You said it. Go do it.
Mm-hmm. And I won't be mad. And I won't be mad if he does sign that deal. I won't be mad if he signs that deal. But I'm just saying, even with him saying that, and had Myles not signed that deal, he still would have been considered the highest paid non-quarterback. And then Myles Garrett signs, and then now he's the highest paid non-quarterback.
Correct.
It's one of those things where it's like he just came first.
That's the sword you're playing with when you make comments like that. That's the problem.
I get it.
And it goes all the way back to Tim's first comments. Should have been last year. Last year, 4 years, $150 million. Jamar Chase is the happiest man on the planet. Tim, what do you think? Do you think we signed Jamar, and what do you think that contract looks like?
I'm going to highlight this because it's 100% facts. Triple Crown got him $40 million. Duke Tobin adding the extra cheese. 100% facts there, Tate. 100% facts, because that's exactly where I was going to. If we would have got that deal done last year, like I stated before, now Jamar Chase is the Triple Crown freaking winner, the best wide receiver in the NFL last year. He ain't going to be going for
the Bengals front office looks smart for doing the deal last year.
They would have looked, you know what? If they would have got that deal done last year, the Cincinnati Bengals franchise would have looked like they knew exactly what they were doing.
Like they would start changing the perception.
Yep. But now they're sitting there looking like they're playing with damn Monopoly money. But it's just, that's the thing is if Jamar wouldn't have went out there and won the Triple Crown and did what he did last year, it might have been a different story. It might have been. You know, like when Justin Jefferson signed that deal, we thought, oh, during that time frame, Jamar was still playing with the whole, you know, the Bengals and them were talking about re-signing this deal. We're like, oh, Jamar was going to get, you know, Justin Jefferson's money plus $1 or whatever the situation was going to be. Now, how are you going to pay? How can you not pay him with Duke Tobin going out there putting his foot in his mouth and saying, well, we're going to make him the highest non-paid quarterback? That's like me hiring Justin and going, Justin, if you come work for me, I'm going to give you X, Y, and Z bonuses. I'm going to promise you a promotion within a year. But then when that year comes along or when that time frame comes along, I don't give you no bonuses and I don't give you no promotion. You're going to be like, what the hell? So Jamar Chase has now heard that birdie chirping in the air going, we're going to make you the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Oh, Myles Garrett. One thing the Cleveland Browns did that was smart was giving Myles Garrett that $40 million a year. Now, believe it or not, it's making Duke Tobin and the Cincinnati Bengals look stupid.
Yeah.
So here we are. But whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah, my frustration lies with they don't talk all year. The front office refuses to talk all season long. Mm-hmm. And then they come out there and the first thing they do, machismo, stick my foot in my mouth, watch this.
Yep.
And I don't understand it because he's not a free agent. He's going into year 4, and you can have year 5.
5. Isn't it 5?
I don't think so. I think this is 4.
21, 22, 23, 24. This will be year 5. This will be his 5th season.
What'd you say, Justin?
It's going into his 5th season.
So this is the 5th-year option season?
Yep.
All right. So we have the 5th-year option season, and we have 2 tags. Mm-hmm. Technically, you have him under contract for 3 more years. You have him under contract. He's not a free agent. You're not like what? You don't have to say things like that. Just go negotiate the contract with him. Just come to the podium and say, look, man, we got 3 great players, and we want to try and re-sign all 3 of them. That's what it needs to be.
Look, I also think that I feel like Duke Tobin, because everybody thinks that Duke Tobin has all this power to sign, to negotiate all of the deals. Really, it's the actual Bengals front office that I have the major problem with. I don't think it's Duke Tobin for real on this one. I think it's the Blackburn family, the Brown family. I think it's them because they're the ones that are really, really the ones that's driving a hard bargain with these guarantees. And I think that's what's always been a holdup with this organization. They drive a hard bargain.
If Duke doesn't have the credit card, he can't make the call on what we're buying anyway. Then he should shut up.
Maybe not. But at the end of the day, I don't blame him for turning the mirror at them. Ultimately, respectfully, I don't care if Jamar signs a deal that's $40 million or $41 million. He deserves it regardless. I don't care. But I'm looking at it that maybe I'm starting to kind of uncover some friction between Duke Tobin and maybe the Blackburn family, because the Blackburn family has never signed a historic deal like this that's not quarterback.
That may be true, that he might be trying to turn the mirror, but that's not how it came off, because he was the one looking at the mirror. He was the one in front of the microphone, in front of the cameras. He was the one making the comments. He didn't say, I hope that the organization makes him the highest paid player. He said, we are going to make him the highest paid non-quarterback. That's what the comment was. He is going to be held accountable for that. If that doesn't happen, or Jamar Chase doesn't get extended, he is the one in the media that's going to get lambasted.
Yeah, realistically. And quite frankly, it's all setting up that if the Bengals have a colossal failure of a season, then, Duke, not only Duke Tobin's going to be gone, but Zach Taylor's going to be gone. And you might have to do a whole mini rebuild before Joe Burrow even gets a chance to take off again.
Which is crazy.
It's messed up, man. It's really messed up.
All right. The hour is up. We appreciate you guys rocking with us at all. Always Tate Boy Fresh, Mary Edwards, Austin's Art, great comments over there. We appreciate you adding to the chat and adding to this experience for us. Everybody listening to us on an audio podcast, hope you guys appreciated the show again. Please, again, third and final time, like, subscribe, rate, review, share, and tell a friend to tell a friend about us. Tim, any final thoughts or words before we cut out of here?
Don't forget to hit the bell on the thing so you get our alerts when we go live also. But other than that, no, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed us old guys and Justin rambling on about stuff that we know. We normally don't have any bad takes around here. If we do have a bad take, it's because we're joking around. But thank you guys again so much for watching. Like Brandon said, like, subscribe, and just hold on to your hats. And just like I said last week, and I'm saying it again, just kind of, I know we're all getting peed off with the whole Bengals situation and everything, but it ain't over with yet. Maybe this whole formula that they're working on,
things, huh?
Yeah, maybe this formula they're working on will all work out next year, and we could all be wrong. I don't know, but thank you guys for watching.
All right, Justin, closing thoughts?
No closing thoughts other than just, hey, don't be like me tonight. Don't be like me. I've been kind of like pessimistic Bobby or whatever you want to call it. That's been me
half
today.
Empty.
Yeah, I have not been looking at the upside with all this. So don't be like me tonight.
Listen, I hope they prove you wrong. I
hope so too.
I have been avoiding full meltdown. I'm the first one to tell you here if they don't start getting this stuff right. And I don't think, by the way, getting it right doesn't mean all three of these contracts resign. Getting it right to me is you get asset back for the assets you have under contract if you're not going to extend them. So if one of the two guys left here, T or Trey, play out their contract and leave without us getting asset, and we get asset for the second one, I'll go, okay, let's see what we get. But we gotta go get the draft right at that point. We gotta get another free agent at that point. What are we looking at here? But I think you need, for me to be happy, you need to re-sign one of them, at least, of those two. Yeah. If you don't re-sign Jamar Chase, or you don't figure this out, you don't give that man his money, man, it's going to be really hard to put on this black and orange.
Don't be hell for you.
Yeah, so it is what it is. Hey, a lot more important things out there in the world in football. I know we're very passionate about our Bengals and our NFL in general. I'm very passionate about my DraftKings account and how that looks in football season as well. So there's a lot of passion that goes on here, but don't get it twisted. We keep the main thing, as Tom likes to say. Live a good life, be a good human, be good to other people. Until next week, enjoy your lives, enjoy the off season, and make some memories with some loved ones. And we will see you back here next week as we are running through the jungle.